Well, Ed O'Keefe is a political reporter for the Washington Post, and he joins us now from Washington. Thanks for joining us, Ed. It certainly looks like Hillary Clinton and her surrogates are increasingly focused on the day after the election, right, on November 9th. But at this stage in the campaign, are they running the risk of maybe appearing overconfident with this strategy? Should they maybe be focused on defeating Donald Trump, because you got to do that first?
Yeah, there's a lot of debate going on among Democrats about what exactly she and her operation really should be doing. I talked to one House Democrat last week who said, look, ultimately she's got to focus on the big prize, which is winning the White House, holding it for the party. If she does well, we do well. That's what this House Democrat told me. The question is, what should her apparatus really be doing in addition to helping her win? And I think you're starting to see much more of it. It's as simple as inserting a few sentences into a standard stump speech about whichever local congressional candidate happens to be in the crowd or, representing or running in that area of the state that she's in. And that's what they've started to do. I mean, look, a few moments of President Obama going after Marco Rubio in Florida or Joe Heck, the Republican Senate candidate in Nevada, will get replayed for days on the local news and the local radio, earning itself free media that really advertising money cannot buy. And at a time, especially down in Florida, for example, where Democrats don't necessarily have enough money to be running ads for the Democratic Senate candidate Patrick Murphy, they figure if Clinton, if Obama, if Tim Kaine, if Bill Clinton, if Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, and Michelle Obama, who are all out there campaigning right now for Clinton, also mention these congressional candidates, it gets them a little bit of a bump.
So, Ed, as you pointed out, President Obama this weekend, he really ramped up some of the rhetoric on those down-ballot Republicans. Clearly a strategy, given that she's got so much firepower right now on the campaign trail as far as her surrogates are concerned versus what Donald Trump is able to do. You think this is a good strategy?
Absolutely. I mean, people turn their nose or think this stuff doesn't matter. Look, in the closing weeks of an election, when it's all about mechanics and getting warm bodies to show up and pull levers or check boxes next to names, it does matter. And I think that line you heard there from the president in Nevada saying that, Trump just inherited what the Republicans have been doing. He slapped his name on it, took credit, and promoted it. Where's that been? And not until really this weekend have we started to hear him say that. And I think if Democrats are able to perhaps narrowly win the Senate or fall short, and if they get close to the 30 seats they need in the House but fall short, and if maybe there were one or two close gubernatorial races that a Democrat could have won or some other kind of race, there are going to probably be some folks thinking that Democrats should have started doing this a little sooner. I think there's been a willingness to do it, but some apprehension about it because they needed to see that Clinton was doing well enough in places like North Carolina, Florida, New Hampshire, out in Nevada to ensure her victory, and then figured that at that point they can turn and worry about folks down the ticket.
So, Ed, we keep talking about November, but a lot of areas have already started voting. In Florida,
Yep.
50 counties across the state have started voting. They started today. Donald Trump is slated to headline a handful of rallies throughout the state over the next few days. But you heard the latest poll numbers. He's trailing Hillary Clinton by a little bit in Florida. Can he win the election without winning Florida?
No. Basically, he has to win Florida and Ohio, and then a combination of other states in order to get to 270. If she wins Florida early in the night, it'll be over really by the time California closes. You'll be able to call it then, if not sooner. But really, he has no path without Florida, Ohio, North Carolina, Iowa, Pennsylvania certainly is another one. If you start seeing those states early in the night on election night going to Mrs. Clinton, or if they're close, it's going to be a really bad night for Donald Trump.
Ed, our new CBS News poll shows Hillary Clinton down just 3 points in Texas. Even if she doesn't win that state this time around, what sort of long-term implications do numbers like that have for the Republican Party?
Well, I talked to a lot of smart Democrats in Texas because it remains a mild obsession of mine as the demographics in that state change and whether or not the Lone Star State ever gets to purple. What year will that happen? This is not expected to be the year. If it happens for some unforeseen reason, it's because Republicans stayed home, not because there were so many more new Democratic voters. Certainly, they've registered hundreds of thousands of new ones. They're mostly Hispanics. And I think you may see a lot of them show up and get Clinton close and keep it within single digits. But there's no reason to believe that she's going to be able to surpass him. What it means for the future, The year to watch especially is 2 years from now in 2018 when you'll have a gubernatorial race and you'll have a Senate race where Ted Cruz will be running for re-election. The problem there is you won't have a presidential race. Texas Democrats haven't held a statewide seat, I believe, since 1992. They need to find more voters. They need to make sure those voters are showing up not only for presidential elections, but every single year, whether it's a local race or a state race. And there just isn't a culture of that yet. And I think a lot of Democrats in Texas are looking at this year, hoping that this is the year that the habit starts and that they can somehow take advantage of it 2 years from now.
All right, let's talk about Hillary Clinton and the WikiLeaks emails. There's a new batch that comes out every few days or so, and she has sort of a standard answer in regards to the emails, nothing to do with the content. She typically says, I have nothing to say about WikiLeaks other than we should think about what the Russians are trying to do with our election. That's what she said over the weekend when she was asked about it. So barring any major bombshell with these emails, can she sort of continue along that path, not really addressing the content of the emails and sort of pivoting to look at Russia? What does Russia and Trump have to do with this, and just sort of keep pushing it aside?
I think at this point it's well known that she was using a private email server. And in this case, what this information is mostly doing is helping color our understanding of things that have happened in the past few years. I would point you to an article that we have in today's Post about the $1 billion that Clinton's campaign and its associated super PACs have raised for her effort this year. What we were able to do, my colleague Matea Gold and others were able to do is dive into the WikiLeaks emails and find examples of her staffers talking about the need to raise a lot of money and how it should be done. It is illegal how these emails were hacked away from John Podesta's private account. And there's an ongoing debate about the merits of using them and the fact that, yes, the Russians appear to be involved and this organization continues to selectively leak them out. But what it is helping us do is sort of color our understanding of how the last few years have gone for her and her own internal thinking. Trump and Republicans, however, aren't capitalizing on it because ultimately there's a lot of smoke, but so far at least there doesn't appear to be any fire. And even if there was, it's unclear at this point if it's enough to suddenly reverse trends with just 2 weeks to go and already a few million people having cast ballots.
Ed O'Keefe of the Washington Post. Kudos, Ed. The Post has been extraordinary in the coverage of both campaigns. We appreciate the time here.
You guys have been extraordinary also.